and welcome back to Intersections Talanoa podcast. My name is Ainsley Iono. I'm the Intersections Journal assistant editor and intern, and I'm also your host today. I'm super excited to finally be back and to have our next episode of our Intersections Talanoa podcast. This is our first episode since our journal came out in spring in May. So we're super excited to have this very special podcast where we have our Intersections Journal actual published author. Today we are joined by Alex Jensen. Hi, Alex.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you here today. So, Alex is a graduating senior this fall, and she is a history and applied mathematics major. She's double majoring, and she's also minoring in education. And she is the author of our journal article, Nature's Hand in the Invention of Writing. And like I said, she is an official peer-reviewed published author featured in our Intersections first issue. So we're really excited to have our first guest since our break and to be able to talk to a published author today. So thank you for joining us, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've seen any of our past episodes, but we usually like to start things off a little fun and lighthearted. So I actually have a game for you today, if you're down.
Okay.
So Alex and I we go back a couple years. We worked at the housing office together a couple years ago. And so I have a sorting game for you today. So Alex, from most to least favorite, can you rank the housing office managers for me?
Most favorite, least favorite?
Yeah, just go ahead, just give me a list. I'll send this to them, don't worry. It's okay. You could just tell me after.
We'll keep that between us.
Okay. Well, before we get into our actual interview, I do want to just get to know you a little bit for the podcast, Alex. So if you could just tell me a little bit more about where you're from and kind of what brought you here to BYU Hawaii.
Sure, yeah. So I'm originally from Ogden, Utah. When I applied to BYU here in Hawaii, it was kind of like a dream to come here. I had heard about the school in the past. I didn't really expect to get accepted, and so it was a big surprise when I did. I felt like the chance to come here, I never had a big moment where I decided, yes, this is what I'm doing. I just felt like opportunities fell in my lap and paved the way for me to come here. But I've loved it ever since. I've been here since 2018. I did my freshman year, and then I went to serve a mission, and then I returned just following the COVID pandemic and stuff. And so I've absolutely loved being here. I love the campus. I think that there's so many extraordinary opportunities that we can have here. I love the people that I get to meet. And so I'm grateful every day that I was able to be here.
That's super awesome. Well, yeah, I'm so glad. And I think, like you said, there's so many different opportunities that kind of come up that make it really neat and special. So yeah, thanks for sharing. So you talked a little bit about, your different experiences and things that you've kind of figured out along the way. So can you speak a little bit more to your majors and your minor and kind of why that combination? How does that fit for you? And was that something that you came in knowing that you were going to do it? Or is that something that similarly you kind of figured out along your journey?
Yeah, I know whenever I introduce my majors to people, they always have kind of a surprised look. They're like, math and history? Those do not go together. So originally when I started school here, I was determined to be a math teacher, which is also why I have an education minor. While I was on my mission, I realized, I don't remember exactly why it was on my mission, but I realized that I had a deep-rooted love for history and that I didn't want to just have it as like a minor on the side. I wanted to take more classes, especially while I was here on BYUH campus. So I decided to add it as a major, even though I was going to be pursuing math. The funny part is, as I started taking these history classes, I realized that I loved it so much that that was truly my passion and what I wanted to do instead. And so my math degree I had already worked so hard on, I decided that I was going to finish it anyways, even though my focus kind of shifted to more my history classes, and I started looking into more future opportunities with history. So I have both, but I don't really have a way that they reconcile. Just that one was what I thought I wanted, and one is what I actually want, and I just kind of figured it out along the way. So now when people ask me like what they should do or how they should go about their schooling, I just let them know, just you'll figure it out along the way what you want to do, and if that means taking a total 180, then that's okay sometimes, because we're here to learn, and deciding what you want to do with your future is part of the experience of college. So.
Yeah, I love that answer. I completely agree. I similarly have changed up my major and my minors throughout my undergrad, and so I totally think it is about the journey, and it's more so about putting your learning and your passions um, before what you think you should do. And so, yeah, thank you for that answer. So I guess then, kind of going along with that, I know in your article you talk about kind of how your passions led you to your research topic, and about how you were like personal interests, and yeah, passion is what kind of led you to your specific topic in your research. And I guess I'm just wondering, did that lead to writing the article, or did you hear about intersections and then write the article, or did you come with it, or kind of what led you to your actual research, and kind of what was that process like?
Yeah, so in winter of 2022, I took a class with Dr. Eve Kohler. It was titled The History of Writing Systems and Symbols. And I loved that class so much. I just ate up the source material. And I had a lot of branching out questions I felt that I wanted to learn more of from that class. And one of them was, I noticed that we have so many different styles of writing and language in human societies. And I wondered if what kind of contributes to that diversity in writing. And I wondered, I don't remember exactly how the question came to my mind, but I wondered if perhaps the physical environment, the location that we live in, could contribute in part to some of that creativity in the writing style and the artistic expression of it. So I proposed that question to Dr. Kohler, actually, just on a whim, like what did she think about that? And she was kind of surprised. She's like, I don't know if I've ever thought about that question before. It's kind of a new idea. And she encouraged me to pursue it. And so I started looking into it, and I knew that the undergraduate research conference was coming up and I was interested in participating. So I started to do research along that avenue. And it was fascinating to see more of what I learned and more questions that came up with it, more ways that I could study this topic. But yeah, I think that is kind of how I got started on my research.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you presented this particular research at the undergraduate research conference in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think it kind of went through a lot of different phases, and has your research from when you first started it, from its conception in the class to the undergraduate research conference to publication, has it gone through like a lot of shifts, or have you worked on it a lot, or how did that look?
Absolutely. I would say it went through a lot of shifts. I think there was a lot of this like wrestle I felt with my research, and how sometimes it seemed to kind of take on a life of its own. The things that I learned took me in different directions than what I expected when I started. And encouragement from professors and other reviewers that took a look at my research, even friends, I felt like pulled it in different ways, and how I presented it for the research conference and how I prepared it for the Intersections Journal went slightly different directions. And I think every time I speak about it, I think about it in new ways. And as time goes on, I continue to think about my research and other ways that I can take it. It will continue to shift and evolve.
That's super awesome. And I think that's kind of one of the keys, is to always continue things into like more like a lifelong learning process. And I think that's such a great example of how you're using your research, because it seems like it's something much more than just an article or a paper that you wrote. It seems like something that's kind of a part of you and a part of your academic and your interests and your journey. And so I think that's really neat. That's kind of morphed across different spaces. Then I guess kind of in the same vein, then can you talk a little bit more about your actual experience within the publication process? Like I said, we're really excited to have you as our very first guest post publication. So now we're interviewing an officially peer-reviewed published author. And so can you talk about what that specific process was like for you? Did you find anything challenging with it? Maybe you just breezed through. I know I had challenges going through the process myself. So I don't know, maybe you just were completely different, but can you just talk about your own experience in that?
Sure, yeah. So I think it was you, Ainsley, who came up to me first about the Intersections Journal. I hadn't heard of it before. And you mentioned that it was a possible avenue if I was interested, and I totally was. Thought that was such a unique opportunity to maybe try and have a paper published. And so I began looking into it, and I spoke with Dr. Crusay, and it was definitely a challenge. It was not smooth sailing. I think, like I talked about earlier, a bit of a wrestle to try and shape the research in the paper to bring it to that higher level into what it could be a professionally published paper. And many months of hard work. When I concluded the undergraduate research conference, I had kind of thought, oh, it's good, it's done, like this is my final draft. And then you start the publication process and you realize that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot more phases and things I went through, and so many more people that were introduced to my work and that continue to help me. You have to accept a lot of like constructive feedback, which is very a humbling experience. But yeah, many months and many more hours of work to turn it into that level. And I still think that there's more that could be done. I think that what I've really understood from this process is that your paper is never truly one-dimensional. It's never just completely done perfect. There's always more that you can do. There's always ways to change it around and take a different look at it. But yeah, it's a big process to have a paper put through the publication. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it seems like you've taken a lot away from the process, and again, just learning and adapting, and a lot of even self-reflection and improvement too that comes along with it. And so yeah, it seems like you've taken a lot away from it. And so I guess, would you have any advice to our round of scholars that are going through this exact same process this year, or even people who are just interested in it or thinking about it, but maybe a little hesitant or a little nervous about actually starting the process? Or even if you think back and think of anything that you would do differently, does anything come to mind for that?
I think for those who are trying to publish, they need to trust in the process and be patient with themselves. I was pretty frustrated a lot of times working on it, and like I said earlier, it doesn't always go the way we expect. Sometimes we have to let the paper take a life of its own, and I think it's an exciting journey, but there is a lot that we can learn from it. And so it takes a lot of patience, it takes a lot of hard work, and it takes good time management skills to fit it in along with all your other studies and effort. And so for those of you who are working on your research papers, kudos to you, good job. Keep it up, because I know it is a tough process, but honestly, it's totally worth it in the end. I think holding that published book in my hands is such an extraordinary feeling and very rewarding. And so it's worth every bit of effort.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. Well, my last question, just to wrap things up then, like I said in your introduction, you are graduating this fall. Congratulations. Very excited for you. Do you have any plans past December, or any goals or anything particularly that you're going to be diving into?
So I'm still working on different avenues. I recently applied. I don't know how it will go. I have an interview next Sunday for an internship opportunity in Japan. So that's a possible avenue. I'm putting in a few grad school applications, but nothing concrete yet. Just excited to see what the future holds and figuring it out. So
That's super awesome. Well, I know that whatever it is that you are going to be pursuing after your graduation, you'll do such a fantastic job. Alex is so wonderful. As you guys can see, she's very bright, and we are very excited and super happy that we have her published article in our Intersections Journal, which we also have digitally available online as well at our Intersections website. So all of the content inside of our journal, as well as individually separated articles themselves, are accessible through our Intersections Journal. So that's something we're super excited about. So the hard work of our scholars like Alex is widely available. So thank you again so much, Alex, for joining us today and for your insight and letting us get to know you a little bit better and get to know you through the journal and publication process. So thank you so much, and we will see you in the Coconut Wireless.